there and taps his hands and you're just sitting there and you know, sit there and rock back and forth and you're in a bit of another murderer or whatever he is convicted. Up to this point of a case, not in handcuffs, not in shackles, one or the other or both, and in orange.
Hello, everybody. Excited Utterance here. My name is Hella, and today's a big day for Idaho versus Bryan Kohberger. Well, I mean, it's been a big week for Idaho versus Bryan Kohberger. It's a really important motion that has been dropped by the defense, and I'm going to show you why. I know that there have been a few important motions, but the motion to change venue is huge, and you're going to see what they have done to prove that. Now, if you recall, a few months ago, there were some very contentious surveys done by the defense in Latah County. Now, Latah County is the area in which the crime was committed. So you've heard a lot about Moscow in Idaho. Well, Latah County is where Moscow is. Now, Latah County, it's a small community. It's where the University of Idaho exists. Let's just say that when they arrested this man, Mr. Bryan Kohberger, people were relieved. They really, really, really wanted someone to be arrested. And when they arrested him, they were like, yay, law enforcement's done their job. We can all rest easy. Now there's no stabby person getting around. And then they thought, great, can't wait for him to go to trial and for him to be executed. Then it's all over. Boom, boom, done. And if you think that I'm just exaggerating, well, the defense went and found out for sure whether or not that was the local feeling, and they have the results. Hello, everybody. Good to see you here. Hello, Half Irish. Hello, Dali. Thank you for the raid. Hello there. Hello, Christine. Hello, John. Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to get into the document, which is 319 pages, and it sounds like a lot. We're not going to read the entire thing. I have been through it for you, and I'm going to give you the gist of what the first 100 or so pages are, and then I'm going to show you the meaty bits, which are the survey results, and I tell you what, they're shocking. But first, let me take you back to when this started, as in when the motion to change venue began. Around March, this happened. So if we go to this motions hearing, let's go into the view that I was going to take you to. Change things up a little bit today. Change this up a little bit today, because I've noticed that if you are viewing on a big screen, then you can't see me, and that sucks. So this happened around March. There were a couple of hearings where the state found out, and this was via somebody who called the state office and said, "Hey, I've been getting these phone calls. I got a phone call asking me how much I know about the Kohberger case. It was a little bit iffy. I don't know who these phone calls are coming from, but I think it might be from Ann Taylor and her team. And you got to stop it." And so Bill Thompson then brought this to the court and said, "This is not on. Shouldn't happen." And then there was some back and forth about it. Mr. Judge, John Judge, Judge, JJJ. He was like, "I'm blindsided. This is terrible." And everyone got in an uproar. And Ann Taylor was like, "I don't need to ask the court if I can do my job." Anyway, that all happened. And then this lady here, the dark-haired lady in the center, she's not Ann Taylor, by the way. People keep saying she's Ann Taylor. She's not Ann Taylor. Ann Taylor didn't chuck a wig on. Okay, so she's actually Alyssa G. Massoth. So she's one of the other public defenders who's assigned to Mr. Kohberger. And at this hearing back in March, she said this. So let's have a look.
My understanding, Your Honor, is that it's the one of the primary issues was the credibility of the person that is out there speaking. We did not want law enforcement, 159 officers out there talking about police reports and disseminating that. We didn't want the prosecutor doing press conferences like we saw on 12/30/2022. We didn't want the defense getting up and doing press conferences based on the information, because we have information that no one else has, and we are consulting with experts that the public doesn't know about. And so we have a level of credibility that the others don't have. And so that is my understanding of what we're trying to get a hold of. And it's been pretty effective in this case until this valid survey that happens in high profile cases has been construed to be something nefarious, which it absolutely is not. As you've heard, it's been used in Boston bombing, the Parkland shooting, the Colorado theater, George Floyd, hundreds of cases going back decades. Dr.
Okay. So she's cited cases where surveys have been done in local areas for high-profile cases to see whether or not the juror pool has been tainted. Right, you can see why I like this. So the Boston bombing, the Parkland shooting, George Floyd. So very important whether or not the local area is so invested in a case that the defendant can't possibly get a fair trial. And so surveys like this have been conducted. Now she goes on to make a very strong point.
Lynn's declaration and now his testimony are uncontroverted evidence before this court on this issue. It's the actual evidence that the court, and finally today, you're getting informed about the validity and the science behind the process. Nothing that was done is worth the hysteria and the hyperbole that keeps getting expressed in this courtroom. The questions asked, the topics, the order, the open-ended, the specifics, they were all done using information that is out there for everyone to see. And the research methods used to determine what was out there is the traditional way and the scientific method that experts in this field use, just as Dr. Edelman testified. And to be sure, the purpose of this is to give you information so that you can make an informed decision about venue. It's not for a nefarious purpose. It's to arm you with facts and information so that you can apply the United States Supreme cases that have been adopted in Idaho and determine whether or not there's presumed prejudice.
And you know what? Today we're going to see it because the results of Dr. Edelman's survey are in the motion to change venue today that we're going to see. Now, Dr. Edelman is the PhD qualified market research analyst who has done this survey or who has overseen this survey. And I tell you what, she's right. The information that has come out of this survey is not just for the defendant, it's for the judge. And actually, it's for the state as well. There's information in there that the state can actually use. And I'd be worried if I were the state and I saw the information that's come out of the surveys that we're going to see today, because it really shows them just the attitudes in the local area, what they're going to have to deal with if they get a not guilty result. Let's keep going just a little bit more.
You know, when we first started talking about whether or not there was going to be this venue hearing sooner rather than later, Ms. Beatty for the state said at least 3 times, Judge, they can't just come in here with affidavits. This case law says that they have to have more. The more that we are gathering to provide you, at least part of it, is this survey. In terms of the proposition that this survey taints the jury pool, first of all, you heard from Dr. Edelman that if someone answers they don't know, a second question tapping into that is asked, and the process stops. There's no other questions other than demographics because they don't want to poison anybody who doesn't know. So for there to be this proposition that all of these questions, these 9 questions that are later on in the process were put out there intentionally to poison the jury pool, that's just flat balls. And the other point is you can't taint.
The AI just said flat BS. Whereas she said flat false. Isn't that funny? I love AI. And the other point is you can't taint. I love how much she says taint.
What's tainted?
What's tainted?
When you hear what the statistics are as it relates to this county, 97% of the people had familiarity with the case. 79% of the people knew 5 or more prejudicial and false media reports. 81% of those who had heard about the stalking had determined and took a position that Mr. Kohberger is guilty. These people.
The stalking, by the way, by Mr. Kohberger never happened. So that has been debunked. That was in the original probable cause affidavit, which was disseminated widely. He never stalked any of these victims. He never stalked anybody. There's no evidence of that whatsoever. Yet most of the people in the local Latah County area not only heard that, but remember it. And of those people who still remember that and believe it, they think that he's guilty of this crime. That is a crime in itself, isn't it?
That were surveyed didn't form the opinion when they were being surveyed. And they didn't then go research their already strongly held opinion because of the survey. These are deeply held opinions in this community within this jury pool. The Latah County citizens have accepted the information placed before them by state actors. It's not just Mr. Thompson that did a media report and talked about the probable cause affidavit. Chief Fry, Kathy Abbott. We've got search warrants from Pennsylvania out there in the public record. We've got hundreds of search warrants in the public record out there from Idaho. We've got all kinds of pleadings. This is all information that's put out into the media.
Yes.
And having the state now claim this moral high ground is an oxymoron. It's a complete oxymoron for state actors to put this information out in the public and now say, hey, wait, if you want to ask if people have believed the information that we put out there, you can't do that. That harms Mr. Kohberger.
Very interesting. So the reason she's bringing this up is because previously the state had said, oh, by doing these surveys, you are the one who is tainting the jury pool. You're the one who's putting all this information out there and therefore potentially giving people this information. Well, Mr. Thompson, actually, it's all information that was either in the probable cause affidavit or was spread by the state in some form or another. And she just listed out all the other people who did press conferences, all of the search warrants and the information that was in the search warrants and is public record. And he actually has said, spread this widely. We want information. Anything you know about this individual. This has been an absolute circus from the beginning, and the rumors have been wild and rampant. The defense are not responsible for all of that information that's been spreading. All they're doing is asking people if they've heard A, B, C, D, or E. All of those questions that they asked have been published, and they all go back to the probable cause affidavit, especially the ones that are misinformation. That's the stuff that's really scary, because the misinformation, the things that have been debunked, they're straight from the probable cause affidavit.
We as a defense team have the obligation and frankly the privilege of defending Mr. Kohberger and defending his right to a fair trial. And in doing so, in arguing that venue should be changed, we have to show you that there is presumed prejudice in this community.
Yes.
And since we have the burden of this, and you now know essentially from this expert that there is presumed prejudice in Latah County, you have to ask yourself, do you want more information to know where the better venue is? And that takes me to the next point, which is what we cannot do. You've heard Dr. Edelman say that it goes outside of his standard of practice and the scientific method that has been used for decades, that has been used in hundreds of cases, to take your ideas about what should be in questions, to take the state's ideas about what's being in questions, should be in questions in the survey. He follows a process. That's the process that he needs to follow, because he has to provide the court with apples to apples comparison. Another issue was addressed last week that I want to touch upon, and there are two, is this concept that if we just done a juror questionnaire, it would have addressed all of that. At the stage that we're at now, which is setting ourselves up for and preparing for a venue hearing, we have to justify a venue change. The standard that you're going to be.
Okay, so the bit I wanted to show you, that was all great, but the bit I wanted to show you also, this.
I guess last week.
I apologize.
Because it was a very serious day, right?
Every day is very serious.
Right, but last Thursday was in particularly a tough one. I think we can all agree.
There's going to be more tough ones ahead, I'm sure.
For sure. And we all need to give each other grace.
Thank you.
I will end by saying this. Our defense team firmly, and I mean firmly, believes in Mr. Kohberger's innocence. And right now he's being held to have a trial in a county that believes that he is guilty. In this country, we pride ourselves on a jury system that doesn't stand for that.
Okay. So that little quote there has been taken and used in memes and all sorts of things. We believe firmly, and I mean firmly, in his innocence. And then later, about a few weeks later, Ann Taylor came along and said that in regard to the it was actually in regard to the cell tower data and his alibi. She said that people need to start to question whether Bryan Kohberger is innocent. Bryan Kohberger is innocent, she said, and people need to stop and wonder whether or not things aren't just wrapped up in a little package. And it's interesting now, we've had two of his public defenders come up and not say that he's not guilty, but actually say that he's innocent. And the very, very strong wording in his alibi motion that said that he will be exonerated, actually exonerated, that's really strong wording. That shows me that it's not just any lawyers that are saying this. These are not lawyers that are being paid with hundreds of thousands of dollars out of his own pocket. These are defenders that are working out of the public money. I feel that they don't need to say those words. They don't need to go out on that limb. I think they know something. And the reason I think they know something is because of Ray. I think Ray knows that his phone was at Hawaii Park. Like, since they have gotten that expert on board, things have changed. I think he knows exactly where that phone was, and I think they know he knows, and all it's going to take is for that motion to compel, the one with the cast data, to come through, or for there to be no data come from the feds, and therefore to be a sanction on the state for that information. And he will be exonerated. It will be there'll be no trial. There'll be no trial because there'll be no case against him, because there's nothing on him if they have no CCTV, they have no cell tower data, because the CCTV ties in with the cell tower data. That's how they get him driving around the house. It's interesting, but it's all since Ray got involved. It's all since Ray got involved that they've been so calmly saying that they believe he's innocent, that they know he's innocent. They know that he's innocent. So it's all very interesting. Now let's get into this. Hello, Shani Graham. Hello, Max. Is it just my connection, or is she crackly? Am I crackly? I'm not, am I? I'm not, am I? Is it not? Is it StreamYard? Is StreamYard doing that thing? Please, no. Oh, it's not doing that thing, is it? People have been having this issue with StreamYard lately where it starts to crackle. And if it does, then no. All right, maybe just give it a minute. You can understand me. All right, maybe just give it a minute, because I'm going to bring the document up and you can read along with me. It is StreamYard. I know it's StreamYard because it's been happening to a lot of people who have StreamYard lately. I'm not going to lose my shit. Don't worry, I'm not going to scream at you all. I'm not going to yell at you all. No, I don't. I understand, Shetty. I know what it is. I know exactly what it is. No, there's no need. There's no point in refreshing. It's not going to make any difference. I've seen it happen for the last few days with people, and it's It's a StreamYard thing. It comes and goes. If anyone doesn't know, StreamYard got sold about 3 months ago to a different company. And so I think they're tinkering with it. They got their tinkering little fairies out. Okay, let's keep going. So, share this tab. You can read along with me if you can't hear me. This is the document, the major one, that got dropped the other day. It is 319 pages. We are not going to read the whole thing, don't you worry. I could try turning off echo cancellation. I suppose. Does that make any difference? I doubt it. Sean yells at us. I know, but Sean had 300 people trying to tell him that his computer wasn't good enough. So I don't blame him, really. Yeah. Okay. So here we go. So in the District Court of the 2nd Judicial District of the State of Idaho, in and for the County of Latah, we have plaintiff, State of Idaho plaintiff, and versus Bryan C. Kohberger. Comes now. Bryan C. Kohberger, and by and through his attorneys of record, submits this memorandum in support of motion to change venue. The motion is based on 5th, 6th, 8th, and 14th Amendments to the United States Constitution and Article 1, 6, 7, 13, 18 of the Idaho Constitution. It's actually a little bit better? Okay. Yeah, right, Shani. I'm paying for the absolute premium because I want to have more admins on mine. And okay. Mr. Kohberger is protected under the constitutions of the United States and the state of Idaho. His protection to a fair and impartial jury is infringed without a change of venue. Gotta agree there, and we'll see why. Here are the issues. Bryan Kohberger cannot receive a fair trial in Latah County as protected by his rights in both the United States and Idaho constitutions. Hello, Melissa. Good to see you. Oops. Hello. A change of venue is necessary under Idaho Criminal Rule 21 and Idaho Code 1801. All right, so basically what they're going to try and say is the media coverage of the case that later became State versus Bryan Kohberger began in the early afternoon of November 13, 2022, so the afternoon of the actual incident, and it just continued. So if we have a look at the argument, Bryan Kohberger cannot receive a fair trial in Latah County as protected under his rights. And if we keep going on, I'm going to show you the kind of stuff that they're going to bring in. And that is an absolute shite ton of media releases. So blah, 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 blah. We have press release after press release after press release. That's pretty much the first 100 pages. We can look January 3, 2023, Moscow homicide investigation and court processes. On January 23, 2023, the suspect in the Moscow homicide investigation, Bryan C. Kohberger, waived extradition in Pennsylvania. Within the next 10 days, Kohberger will be returned to Idaho. Details regarding Kohberger's transportation to Idaho, specifically when that may occur and by what method of transportation, will not be shared publicly. Tip line, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so that was when they first started talking about Bryan Kohberger back then. And I want to just flick backwards a little bit because there is a discrepancy between who they were looking for and the car that they were looking for, and then how they changed the make of the car to match Bryan Kohberger's. So they were looking for a 2010 to 2013 Elantra. Let me just look. So I might just do a search. 2013. 2103. 82 mentions. Okay, there we go. So back here, they were looking, there we go, December 7, 2022. So this is before they arrested Bryan Kohberger. And they were looking for anyone's help at this point. So Moscow police are asking for the community's help. Moscow, Idaho detectives are interested in speaking with the occupants of a white 2011-2013 Hyundai Elantra with an unknown license plate. Tips and leads have led investigators to look for additional information about a vehicle being in the immediate area of the Kings Street residence during the early morning hours of November 13. Investigators believe the occupants of this vehicle may have critical information to share regarding the case. Now, there are a lot of these media releases that refer to this 2011 to 2013 make of white sedan. Basically, how many white Elantras do you think there are that could have been driving around that street at that time? A lot. Now, it wasn't until, let's go 2015. Let's see if we can find it. Now, it wasn't until later. The investigation continues and detectives have seized a white 2015 Hyundai Elantra. Now, I believe that 2015 Hyundai Elantras look fairly different in their shape to a 2010 to 2013 one, or 2011 to 2013 one. So it wasn't until after they had found Bryan Christopher Kohberger, which was December 30, 2022, that they completely changed their mind and decided, hey, actually it's fine. One that's 2 years older, different shape, that'll do. Because they never actually got any other sign of what this car was. They have no tags, right? There's no tags on this thing. And no, God, I'm not backing it up. You can rewind. Can you guys hear me okay now? Okay. So that's just something that people have actually known this for a long time. This is not news, right? So the fact that they retrofitted the make of the car or the year model of the car to Bryan Kohberger when they knew full well that the car they were looking for was earlier than 2013, that's not news, okay? But it's all very simply laid out when you look at all this. Okay, now the really interesting part that I wanted to show you guys, and P.S., we're now up to page 154. If you go backwards from page 154, that's all the press releases, okay? And there's also some YouTube links out to press conferences and things. If we have time, we could go back and have a look at, for example, Mr. Bill Thompson doing his original presser when they caught the man, and then Chief Fry, etc. There's Chief Fry behind him, this sort of other bearded man behind him, and they're also proud of themselves. But we're not going to do that. We're going to get straight into this, which is the survey result. Because let's just see what damage it did, hey? Because this is really what this is all about. Also, can you imagine, just in the back of your mind, can you imagine also that Latah County is where all these people live? So when I say where all these people live, I mean like the detectives and the medical examiner, just generally the witnesses, and somewhere like Boise or Ada County, the other places that they're considering for the venue, they're hours drive away. So, and this is an 8-week trial. So this is a lot of inconvenience for everybody to actually have to relocate or drive for hours every day for this trial. They don't want to do this for their own inconvenience. So it might be a little bit of self-interest involved in not wanting to move the trial. So declaration of Bryan Edelman. Now, Bryan Edelman, he is the market researcher who is in control of the survey. So let's have a look. Bryan Edelman. I, Bryan Edelman, solemnly, sincerely, and truly declare and affirm as follows. I am the founder of Trial Innovations, Inc. It's not a bad name. A national full-service jury research firm. I have worked as a trial consultant for 20 years and have conducted pre-trial and post-trial research on both criminal and civil cases across the country. I have been retained as an expert in over 70 cases that have received significant publicity and asked to assess the impact of media coverage on the fairness of the trial proceedings. Oh, I wonder what he thinks of Nancy Grace. I'd love to chat to this dude. I would really super love to chat to this dude. What just happened? Oops. It's fine. I would love to chat to this dude. Some of the cases I have been retained on include the state of Idaho versus Jonathan Renfro. This is going to sound like Troy McClure now. You may have seen me on cases such as state of Idaho versus Gilbert Rodriguez, United States versus Cloud, United States versus Sablin, United States versus Marilyn Mosby, United States versus Robert Bowers, United State of Florida versus Nicholas Cruz. Ooh, Nicholas Cruz, I know that one. United States versus David DePape. No, I only remember the Nicholas Cruz one. Counsel for defendant in state of Idaho versus Bryan Kohberger retained me to research and evaluate 1. Whether there was an extensive and prejudicial pre-trial publicity in Latah County surrounding the killing of 4 students attending the University of Idaho in Moscow. The community panic that ensued during the search for a suspect and the alleged evidence tying Bryan Kohberger to the murders. 2. Determine if the media coverage has impacted the defendant's ability to obtain a fair and impartial jury in Latah County. 3. Evaluate potential bias in alternate venues. And 4. Based on the findings, recommend appropriate remedial measures, for example, a change of venue, to protect the Kohberger's ability to be tried by a fair and impartial jury. As part of my analysis, I evaluated relevant newsprint. Really? Newsprint? Is there still newsprint? Television and social media coverage surrounding these events and conducted a community altitude survey. Oh no, attitude survey. I was going to say altitude. Of 400 residents in Latah County. Comparison surveys were conducted in Ada, Canyon, and Bannock counties. Okay, so they must be the potential other options. People who know Idaho better, I thought that Boise was an option. The reason I thought Boise was an option was because someone, let me just say, she looks a lot like Ursula from My Little Mermaid or The Little Mermaid. Nancy Grace is trying to tie this all in to the Chad Daybell, Laurie Daybell situation. And the reason she's doing that is just to try and paint him with the same brush. So, oh, it didn't work for Laurie Daybell. It didn't work for her. She was still found guilty. It didn't work for Chad. He was still found guilty when they moved it to Boise. So, you know, like, why does he think it's going to make any difference to him? Well, let's just say that they had, like, the bodies of children in their backyard. This guy, all they've got on him is a little bit of touch DNA that could have been goddamn planted there, or he could have just been, like, playing with an object at a garage sale, put it down, and that's it. Like, they've got nothing else. They have zero else. Nothing. Nothing. He doesn't have, like, dead children in his backyard. Please, Nancy Grace. Oh, no question at all, David. Sorry, Great Lakes sailing. Okay. Have they dug deep enough? Yeah, no. Well, he doesn't even have a backyard. He was in an apartment. But they've looked in his garbage, I know that. Looked in his garbage. He's also creepy. Yeah, I know. He's got those eyes, right? He's got those eyes. Okay, so it is my opinion that the residents in Latah County have been exposed to extensive, prejudicial pretrial publicity and social media surrounding the murders of Kaylee Goncalves, blah, 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 blah. The coverage of Bryan Kohberger included interviews with former friends and students and old posts from his social media accounts dating back 2 years. The publicity painted a picture of a disturbed individual capable of committing violence. The media also saturated the jury pool with potential trial evidence and details, some of which proved to be false or misleading. Yeah, some. Fair bit, actually. That created a presumption of guilt. The pretrial publicity is replete with references to GPS phone data from the defendant's phone. Video footage of the alleged getaway vehicle, reported to be his make and model, evidence left by the killer at the crime scene, DNA results, and erroneous connections to the victims. Yeah, so he didn't know the victims at all. That's pretty much been proven now. Not that you need to prove someone's innocence, but there's been no actual connection found whatsoever between him and these people. He may have run into them at some point in time during his, like, he went to the same university as far as I know, but like, this is a big university, so I mean, it's possible that he knew somebody who knew somebody who knew them, and that would make some sort of sense as to whether or not he could have come into contact with an object that ended up in their house. I guess if it's a party house, potentially there could have been an object that belonged to a friend that they were all sort of playing with or something at some point that ended up in their house. However, I think it's far more likely that that DNA was planted there. Like, that just seems, it makes more sense to me that it was planted there. But I don't know. I don't know. It seems too staged to me. The whole thing seems really crazy that he would, the whole story of him going in there and stabby, and then just leave this telltale sheath by accident and not leave anything else of himself whatsoever, and then have no evidence of their person anywhere in his possession, on his clothes, in his apartment, in his car, no evidence of cleanup, nothing, but he's still in that frenzied moment left that object dramatically. It just doesn't make any sense. It sounds like some Hollywood story that's been made up. I just don't get it. It's, yeah, I don't buy it. Sorry, I just don't buy it. So either he's picked this object up in some other setting, or it's been planted. Hello, David Nelson. Good to see you. Universities were a few miles from each other. Hang on, so there's 2 universities? Because there's one in Pullman, right? And because he went to University of Idaho, didn't he? Different universities, but neighboring towns. Oh, okay. I got that part wrong. Thanks for that. Thanks, Rosie. So you're telling me that it's possible that they never even, like, I mean, I know it's possible they never even run into each other, but are you telling me that they didn't even go to the same campus? he was across state. I knew he was in Washington. I knew he was in Washington, but that was like an hour's drive or so away. But I thought that he was driving to uni. But then again, I see no reason why it's not possible that there were friends that crossed over and parties that people were going to and things like that, and it's not possible that they had friends of friends that could have interacted, and therefore if there are friends of friends that could have interacted, that there could have been objects that were at parties that people touched and went between things. So that's the only thing I could see being an explanation other than a nefarious reason why this object, he could have touched this object, because just the whole story of him just dropping this thing makes no sense to me. I don't get it. Yeah, he crossed state lines with a knife. No, not a knife, a sheath. Get it right. There's only a sheath. No one ever found a knife. He stabbied with a sheath. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so this is all just summary by this Edelman guy. Let's have a look at some results. So, a community attitude survey was conducted to assess the impact of media coverage on the Latah County jury pool. Approximately 98% of survey respondents were familiar with the case. Yeah, that's fair enough. In addition, community members had more than just a passing familiarity with the crime. Approximately 68% of survey respondents reported that they have followed the case somewhat or very closely, with 29% falling into the latter category. In addition, 79% of survey respondents recognized at least 5 of the 9 media items tested in the survey. 52% knew 7 or more. 81% of those familiar with the case have read, seen, or heard that police found a knife sheath on the bed next to the victims, and 67% were aware that DNA found on the sheath was matched to Bryan Kohberger. But what kind of DNA is what's interesting to me, because those of us who watch trials a fair bit, especially those who watch the trial of Zachariah Anderson, would be aware that it's not the kind of DNA that you get a hair sample or something like that and it's like definitive. This is touch DNA or transfer DNA. So it can be the kind of DNA that you shake someone's hand and then they go and touch the sheath, right? Could be that kind of DNA. So that's the other problem. Bad tainted sheath. That's true, half Irish, but we also haven't talked about this possibility that it could have come from somewhere else. Maybe he didn't touch the sheath at all. Maybe he touched something else, and then, or he was intimate with somebody in some way. Not even intimate. Like maybe he had just like rubbed his hands on a tissue or something that was very porous, and then someone cleaned the buckle with something that had a lot of his DNA on it. No expert on how this works, but it is touch or transfer DNA, the same thing. I believe they're both exactly the same thing. It's just the same word, a different word for the same thing. But the problem is that jurors don't know the difference, right? And we learned this in the Zachariah Anderson case. Jurors don't know the difference. They just go, oh, it's DNA, it's irrefutable. This is a problem. And I'm of the point of view that touch or transfer DNA should not be allowed in a trial. It just shouldn't. Like there should be some sort of check and balance as to what kind of DNA should be allowed in. In addition, 86% of Latah County survey respondents heard that the defendant owned the same type of car recorded on video driving in the neighborhood where the killings occurred. Well, was it? Was it the same kind of car? Or was it a car that was 3 to 4 years earlier make? 79% knew that the cell tower phone data purportedly show that Kohberger made several trips near the victim's home months before the killing. Okay, this bit gets me. This bit really gets me, because cell tower phone data can't put you right outside their home. It can't. It just doesn't put you right outside their home. It puts you near, like in the general vicinity. You guys have seen it. You guys have seen it. So on its own anyway, like they're pings. So they put you in the azimuth. They put you within like a general radius, but they don't put you outside the home. They don't put you driving up and down outside the home. The way they've pinpointed is they've gone, oh, here's some CCTV of this white car, and here is a cell tower ping in this area. So therefore, there he is. That's it, right? But we don't know that that's his white car. So really, without both of those things together, you got nothing. And that's why I think that if the feds don't come forth with this cast data, and also you really can't prove that that white car's his, and you can't, they don't have a case. They got nothing. We're going to go forward, and because this is all a written summary of, where is it? There is an easier way to look at this. Oh, hang on. Oh no. Yeah, there's points. Okay. So the nature of the pretrial publicity is an important factor to consider when weighing the need for a change of venue. The initial pretrial publicity chronicled the elevated state of panic and fear in the community as residents and university students anxiously waited for law enforcement to announce an arrest during the search for a suspect. With the public demanding answers, the media drew on information from the 5 press conferences held by Moscow Police Department, 8 interviews with Chief Fry and Captain Lanier, and almost daily press releases. So those were the ones we saw earlier in the motion. Oh dear. This culminated with a widely televised press conference held by Chief Fry and County Prosecutor Bill Thompson after the December 30 arrest, when they were very pleased with themselves. Okay. He asked the public to remain vigilant as the killer is still on the loose. Examples of this type of reporting include, this is just prior. We cannot say that there is no threat to the community, as we have stated. Please stay vigilant. Right, so this is when they were everyone was getting really like hyped up about, who the killer is. Fry also addressed frustrations from the public over the slow pace of information coming from his department since Sunday. We want you to feel safe, etc. Okay. During the 7-week search for the killer, law enforcement was hesitant to release information to the public that could undermine the investigation. This left an information vacuum, which allowed misinformation and rumors to flourish. Videos of purported suspects appeared on social media, and so-called psychic internet sleuths made accusations against a university professor. Oh, I remember that. That was bad. Okay, we'll skip all that stuff. Yeah, it was Schofield was the name of the lady who was accused. Okay, so let's move forward. Examples of type of prejudicial coverage include police alleged in a probable cause affidavit that Kohberger made at least 14 visits to the cell tower coverage area for the King Road house, including twice on the day of the student's deaths. All right, so just visiting the cell tower coverage area doesn't mean you're visiting the house. And it's interesting that the defense is actually, well, Mr. Edelman is actually wording it this way, because if that was how it was worded by the police, that's actually the correct way to word it, that he visited the cell tower coverage area. So there's nothing wrong with saying he visited the cell tower coverage area. That's a large area. It's just that people misinterpret that. And the police know that. The police know that. Cell phone data was a key part of the evidence that led to Kohberger's arrest in December 2022, and Mowry created visuals displaying cell phone data during the grand jury. Now you remember Detective Mowry. From about a month and a half ago, he was the one who did the cast viz reports. And remember, he's the one who does screenshots to save his work. Remember? He goes, I make screenshots. Yeah? And then Ann Taylor said, so when you take these screenshots, do you think about, saving your work? Saving, the files that make up your work so people can go back and see how you did it and recreate it? And he's like, no, I just make screenshots with the snipping tool. That was Detective Mowry. Bless. Yeah. And then later, I think it was the next hearing after that, the man who knows just about everything there is to know about tracking cell phones, Mr. Cy Ray, who is the expert for the defense pro bono, I will add, he spoke about the fact that actually, no, that's not best practice at all. You're supposed to save a bunch of files. There is what's called a JSON file and a bunch of other things. And if you do the proper course, you'll learn that you're supposed to save all of the files, and you should be able to input them all and recreate exactly what was done to make that map again. But unfortunately, you'll never be able to make the map again that was presented to the grand jury because it's gone. All we have is a screenshot of it from Windows Snipping Tool. Anyway, so that must be super frustrating for Cy. But at least it's on the record now that that's what's happened. Anyway, Mowry created visuals displaying cell phone data during the grand jury. We have no idea how wrong they are, those visuals, because we can't recreate them, because he just took a screenshot of them. Investigators were able to trace the movement of the phone heading through Genesee, Idaho, Uniontown, Idaho, and back to Pullman. The estimated locations were consistent with that of the white Elantra. The white Elantra. You know what? We don't even know if it was one white Elantra. There could have been like 10 white Elantras. They're pretty common cars, right? So some white Elantras, or a white Elantra, whose white Elantra, we don't know, were caught on CCTV driving around. Right? We don't know, because in Idaho, you don't need to have tags on the front of your car, right? So if they were caught from the front, then it could have been numerous white Elantras just caught on CCTV. And they don't seem to care what make it was or what year it was. So it could have been a 2011 one, and it could have been a 2013 one, and it could have been a 2014 one. Who cares? Just so long as you get a white Elantra, guys. That's all we care about. According to those cell tower records between Pullman and Moscow, a phone registered to Kohberger stopped reporting to the network or was disabled on the night of the killings between 2:47 and 4:48 a.m., consistent with Kohberger's attempting to conceal his location during the quadruple homicide, the affidavit said. Yeah, okay. Well, that's my big one. I reckon that's going to be it. That's going to be what gets him out of this, because I think he was in Hawaii Park and everyone knows on the defense side that that's where he was. but we'll come back to that. Okay, let's move on. So these are pretty much just facts that people knew about. Let's have a look at what people think. The criticism was left uncontested until April 17, 2024. That's recent. Examples of this type of reporting include, hang on a minute, the coverage also focused on Bryan Kohberger's alibi, which was called into question in the coverage. On August 4, 2023, it was reported that Kohberger claimed to be on a late drive around the time of the murders. According to the publicity, he had a habit of going for drives alone, but had not yet developed any evidence to support his alibi. The media often drew on comments in the prosecution's filings attacking the alibi, which was described as vague and lacking supporting evidence. This criticism was left uncontested until April 17, 2024. Examples of this type of reporting include Kohberger had not yet provided an alibi, Bryan Kohberger's attorney claims the murder suspect was out driving the morning 4 University of Idaho students were murdered. As of now, Kohberger's only alibi is that he was driving alone in the evening hours of November 12 and early morning hours of November 13. Kohberger often took nighttime drives for hiking destinations around Palouse. Taylor claims Kohberger was driving throughout the area south of Pullman and west of Moscow. Well, what if he was? Okay, let's keep going. I want to see what the people said. These are lots of facts that are out there, but okay. Some examples of media coverage include Latah County prosecutor Bill Thompson said the questions on the survey were completely inappropriate for potential jurors and that the information in the questions was false and inadmissible, and the questions violated a non-dissemination order. Latah County prosecutor Bill Thompson argued the survey is violating the court's non-dissemination order that prohibits attorneys from making out-of-court statements. That is reckless conduct and it's outrageous, Thompson said. Oh dear. Yep. That was that hearing that I showed you at the beginning. So much. So the telephone survey. We get to the telephone survey, and this is where we get to the meat, guys. Have you read, seen, or heard if? You use snipping tool all the time, God? Well, that's all right. You don't have to present your findings to a grand jury, do you? But don't tell us if you do. No, stargazing itself does not an alibi make, but if the state's case relies on you, your phone, and your car all being near or at a crime scene and you're actually 40 miles to the west, then yeah, it doesn't really matter if you're stargazing or if you're just hanging out. Like, it matters, doesn't it? It matters. So yeah, you could be stargazing, you could be doing star jumps, looking for starfish. Oh, you're in South Africa. I saw that, Rosie, that you're in South Africa. So you better head out. Thanks for the coverage. It's nice to have you here. Lovely. And we should collab sometime. But thank you so much for hanging out. Yep, you're lovely. So definitely let's do something together sometime. Mwah. Okay, let's have a look at this. Have you read, seen, or heard if Bryan Kohberger stalked one of the victims? 81% said that they believe the defendant is guilty and defendant would have a difficult time convincing that he is not guilty. What? Wow. that's what the two responses are. So basically, if the person said yes, that they have read, seen, or heard the question, then they are asked if they believe the defendant is guilty, and would they have a difficult time, or would the defendant have a difficult time convincing them that they're not guilty. 81% who thought, or who had read, seen, or heard that Bryan Kohberger stalked one of the victims would have a difficult time being convinced that he is not guilty. Wow. Bryan Kohberger said that he was out driving alone on the night of the murders. 79% of those people who have heard, read, or seen that would have a difficult time. 79% of people believe that he's guilty. 62%, again, would have a difficult time believing he's not guilty. Bryan Kohberger has followed one of the victims on social media. And he never did. There's no evidence of that, guys. And the same with the stalking. 79% again, and again 62% would have a difficult time believing he's not guilty. DNA found on the knife sheath was later matched to Bryan Kohberger. 75% believe that means he's guilty, and 60% would have a difficult time. So it's actually less. University students in Moscow and their parents lived in fear until Bryan Kohberger was arrested for the murders. Now, that's fair. I think that's a fair point. You would be living in fear until somebody was arrested, right? So 74% believe the defendant is guilty. Well, that doesn't mean he's guilty, right? 56% would have a difficult time convincing them that he's not guilty. I don't see how this relates to that. I don't get it. That makes no sense. Police found a knife sheath on the bed next to one of the victims. So if people have read, seen, or heard that police found a knife sheath on the bed next to the victims, 72% of those people believe the defendant's guilty. And 55% would have a difficult time convincing them that he's not guilty. Bryan Kohberger owns the same type of car, recorded on video, driving in the neighborhood where the killings occurred. I'd love to ask these people, like, if you also saw a VW bug on the CCTV driving around, would you think that that car had something to do with it too? Or is it just because the police said that the white car had something to do with it? I mean, would you start questioning about the VW bug? Or is it like, why the white car? Cell phone tower data show that Bryan Kohberger made several trips near the victim's home in the months before the killings. 72% and 55%. It's a bit of a pattern showing here. Consistent with what often happens in smaller venues, rumours, conjecture, and misinformation has spread through informal discussion and alternate communication networks such as social media. Approximately 88% Latah County survey respondents who recognise the case have talked about the murders or heard others talking about them in person or online. Prospective jurors were also familiar with misinformation reported in the media and tested in the survey. For example, 45% have read, seen, or heard that Bryan Kohberger stalked one of the victims. 45%. And 45% were aware that he allegedly followed one of the victims on social media, which he didn't. Earlier in the survey, respondents were asked what rumours or theories they had heard about the murders, the defendant, or the victims. Latah County survey respondents reported a litany of rumours and conjecture that had been spread in the coverage, informal discussions, and social media. Examples include, here we go. Rumours. He may come from a family of crime, and previous cases have been uncovered. I've heard that Kohberger has been linked to other murders in Washington and Pennsylvania. I've heard They are railroading Kohberger to put him away, and the evidence was planted, and he's been framed. One other one that I heard was that he was working with one or the other of the roommates. Okay, it's new. Some speculation that Kohberger committed a murder in Oregon. Possible. The house was a party house, and a couple of the people who died weren't supposed to be there. The boyfriend and girlfriend. Also, Kohberger has commented about committing the perfect murder in a paper. Why does it have to be a white car? Because they found a white car on the CCTV, David. So, because they saw a white car driving around the house on CCTV, they just went and found more white cars. And you know what? White cars are pretty prevalent. If you have a look around, I don't know about in America, but here, there's white cars everywhere, right? I think Hyundai Elantras, they did like a search to see how many white Elantras there were, and there was something like 1,300 just in that local area. So it was pretty easy for them to go and say, oh, it's a white Elantra. No one's going to question that, are they? But if it were a more obscure vehicle, then you can't pin it on Bryan Kohberger, can you? Or you can't pin it on somebody who perhaps had an alibi. It's easier to put it onto a car that is more ubiquitous. Racist. Well, there aren't that many brown cars getting around. Unfortunately. All of those answers are media answers. Trial by media for sure. Oh. I'm going to warn you right now, and just get yourself prepared, because I'm going to show you a little bit of Nancy Grace in a second. Sorry. The girls were party girls. Bryan was studying criminology, so how could he get away with it? See how much he could get away with. Oh, right, yeah. Maybe one of the maybe one of the victims had rejected him sexually. Had caused this, and with his criminal justice interests, he wanted to try to commit the perfect murder. He planned it out, and he would keep doing it if he wasn't caught. He was a law student at WSU, and okay, Washington State University. Oh, right, that's what that is. Washington State University. See, I'm such an Australian. I've got no idea what these things are. Washington State University. Of course. And he looked on the internet for how to do certain things. He was interviewing people for his thesis. Oh yeah, so he was just interviewing people, and he just decided to go stabby. And plus, he was wearing all black, and he had a black mask, and he decided to tell one of them, you know what, don't worry, I'm going to help you with your thesis. She forgot that bit. Someone said he may have been snubbed by the girls at parties. Students that were killed were big partiers, and he had been to parties with them, and that Kohberger bragged about committing a perfect murder and was taking criminal justice classes. Okay, here's the thing. All right, if he went to parties with them, there is no way that there's no digital trail of this. There would be photos. There would be Instagram snaps, there'd be location data, there would be something. And there's not. It's been nearly 2 years. People have been digging, and nothing has come up. So there is no way he went to any parties with these people. He did not know them. People who they thought was involved. Also that the other roommates were involved, but that hasn't been proven. It's just a rumor. Yeah, right. Rumors about other suspects. He frequented Mad Greek. Stalking, right? So he went to some restaurant that was the same as them. That doesn't mean he was stalking them. That there could have been another person. Yeah, sure. I heard that Kohberger had an obsession. Multiple people involved may have been connected with ritual killings of an animal. What? What? Speculation that the roommates are involved. Well, there's been a lot of that. God, didn't you think that for a bit? Surprised that the police did not do more investigations. I think frat boys may have been involved. Okay, that's a big one. That's a big one. Lots of people think that there's some sort of frat boy thing going on with the Sigma Chi thing, and then stuff with the whole grub truck and the footage of the grub truck, and them all having some sort of discussion about Fight Club and drugs, and because they all went to the grub truck earlier, and there was a live feed of it on Twitch, and there was some sort of weird passing under the table of some stuff going on, and I don't really think so, but who knows? I'm too old to understand all that garbage. Actually, no, I'm not, but I still don't understand all that garbage. Maybe I'm too Australian to understand all that garbage. But all I know is that I'm not really interested in alternate theories. I'm interested in whether or not this man gets a fair trial, and I don't think he's going to in Latah County. News on the street. It was a really gruesome murder and vicious. Also heard by some people I know in jail. They have told me they have seen interaction with police and Kohberger while in jail, and says that police have seemed to be friendly to butter up with Kohberger to try to get him to talk. Police here are doing an excellent job here on this case. Oh, really? Really? He seemed to be friendly to butter up with Kohberger to try to get him to talk. Okay, that's just like fantastic insight there. We were told he sliced and diced them and hung them from a fan. Sorry, I shouldn't laugh. Sliced and diced them and hung them from a fan. Okay, my morbid sense of humor is kicking in now, or maybe it's my flu drugs. It's a strong fan. Guys, are you a fan of this theory? Sliced and diced them and hung them from a fan. Oh my god. Maybe the person who was like taking the survey was just messing with them. I heard he sliced and diced them and hung them from a fan. What do you think about that? Oh, look, I'm sorry, people of Idaho. I'm sorry, all those people who are grieving in that. I find the fan theory to be a bit silly and kind of amusing. Oh dear. The rumor was that an ex of one of the female victims, and I heard he had Tourette's. Tourette's? Okay, there is no way he is sitting so still in that courtroom, behaving so well if he's got Tourette's. He'd be like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. All the time. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. All the time. Right? He's on some serious drugs if he's got Tourette's. Plot twist, it was the Karen Reed fan. Moscow people is special. Hi Mia Kaiser. Oh, the answers are pretty funny. Moscow people are special. I'm starting to think that Brisbane people are special right now. It's I've had the flu for like 4 days. It's starting to get to my head. So yeah, apologies everybody. Did you like my Tourette's? Did you like my Tourette's impression? Oh dear, I'm sorry, I'll move on. He fit the description and was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He tried to leave the country. Did he? No. No, fail. I heard that it was 2 other people, but they found his DNA at the scene. Okay. I've heard that the defense isn't sure who it is, or maybe the roommates are involved, or there may be more than one person. Yep. He had someone else in the car with him. He killed the people and there was someone else helping him. His roommate said Kohberger was acting strange around the time of the murders. He is guilty, he did it, and the evidence was found at the crime scene. He knew one of the people in there. He tried to connect with one woman. He was aware of where the girls were at the time, being in and around the house a couple times. Rumors that there was a second person responsible, and rumors of following the girls online, and lots of parties at the house because it is a university town. He was obsessed with one of the girls at the house. I heard that Bryan tried to hit on one of the girls at the restaurant. Bryan Kohberger said, I, the only one getting arrested when the cop picked him up. I have heard that actually. Are you arresting anybody else? Am I the only one? Is apparently what he said. But you can't believe anything cops say. At all. They're allowed to lie. Cops are like literally allowed to lie. So, and also that's hearsay. That's goddamn hearsay. So I don't really know whether or not he said that. So he said, she said, they said, cops said, whatever. EU goes from racist jokes to making fun of the handicapped. Look, I have the flu. Alright? I could die. People die of the flu. People have died. So you just need to cut me a bit of slack here, God. Cut me some slack. Yep. Hey, I'm Bronze. How's it going? How do Moscow people come up with all these wild things? Look, they think that the rest of us are nuts. I think that the Latah County people think that the rest of us are just too kind and too forgiving, and we should all just like take Bryan out there and do the shooty thing now. We're way too patient. Let's get this show on the road. Imagine finding strange DNA at a frat house. Look, I'm sure there's lots of DNA at the frat house, and I mean everywhere. On the ceilings, the mirrors, everywhere. Hey, Moonvale. Oh, Brian Enton said that. Brian Enton, Bryan Kohberger, connection, I think. Kawinky dink. Brian. How are you, Moonvale? Moonvale is from Australia. Guess what? Laura, we have another Aussie in chat. Laura's from Tasmania. Moonvale is from Queensland. Laura used to be from Queensland, but she escaped down to Tasmania. So now She's an islander. She's gone to the island. Onto the island. Welcome, Moonvale. Welcome. The mattress. Look, mattresses are too simple. Mattresses are too simple. DNA everywhere. Ugh. Yeah, I know who Bryan Enton is. He's not my favorite person. Let's just say that. He's not my favorite person. Bryan Enton, News Nation. Bleh. He's Bryan Enton. He entertains Steve Goncalves and his wife and lets them like spurg out all over the internet with their theories. So, not really a big fan of Bryan Enton, but I mean, some people like Murph likes him. Murph Turf likes him, and I'm not quite sure why, but you know, we'll see. Welcome, Moonvale. It's so good to have you here. Thank you for coming. Anyway, moving on. We're pretty sure he did it. Pretty sure he was stalking them, checking the places they went. One of the girls had spurred his romantic advances. Oh, really? Spurred? Spurred's not the right word, right? Oh, Dali, that's nice of you. That's nice of you. And Phil got a gifted membership. Phil. That's nice. You know what? How many grey people do we have today? Not many. Not many. You were trying to get Moonvale, weren't you? You were trying to get Moonvale. No, you don't like... see? See, you're one of us, Moonvale. You belong here. And Mia Kaiser, only thing I know about Australia is Mushroom Poison Lady. Oh, yes, Mushroom Poison Lady. She had her court date continued. But we're going to keep up with her. I think she's innocent. But I tend to think everyone's innocent. I like to see the best in people. I think Sarah Boone's innocent. She's a good egg, really. Anyway, John gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much. John, you're awesome. And Badgered Witness, Paige M, Alex Ledge Muted, Fiery Red Podcast, and Jedi Jess are welcome. Congratulations. Yes, Ronnie, yes, congratulations to all the gifted members. And does that mean that I'm now up to my second challenge that I haven't completed? Because if you have a look at my pinned message, I think that means that... John, are you counting? Are you counting my my Aussie challenge thing? Sarah Boone is so innocent. Samsonite is guilty. Yeah, guilty. Yes, are you counting? So am I up to now 2 challenges that I have to do? So I have to do both the Trump challenge and the firearms challenge. I think that's right. So I haven't been able to go outside and talk to people this weekend. I was going to go outside and, for those who are new here, I'm doing a membership challenge in July. I've done 2 already. And that was, I did a Vegemite challenge when I went and did I showed everybody a recipe that I do with Vegemite, because I don't just eat Vegemite on toast. I mix Vegemite and stuff. And the other thing I did was I showed people what Bunnings looks like. So I went to Bunnings. But the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go out on the street. I'm going to ask a random Aussie what they think of Mr. Trump. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go out in the street and I'm going to ask a random Aussie what they think of America's gun laws. And I'm going to try and do that without getting myself punched in the face. And then I'm going to show the results. But I have had the flu, so I can't really go out and talk to people right now. So now we have gotten through those last 225 gifted memberships. Thank you so much, John. You're a huge contributor. I am going to have to do those last 2. And if I don't get well enough in time, I'm going to have to think of something else. But I'm going to do it, guys. Thank you so much. Hey, David Nelson. We need common sense suitcase control legislation. We so do. We so do. Was it a manufacturer defect? Did the suitcase have warnings? Look, they were just playing a simple game, all right? Simple game of hide and seek. Hide and seek in a suitcase. And now she's on her own. Anyway, we're going to do the latest Sarah Boone hearing this week sometime. I haven't got around to it because, again, I've had the flu. Let's keep going. You should have done the Bunnings challenge. It wouldn't have... Laura, you would have enjoyed the Bunnings challenge too much. Anyway, moving on. I think he hates women. He doesn't respect women at all. Kind of obvious from the way he's treated his professors and the people he works with, his fellow grad students, the other university he was working at. They had problems with him too. I don't know why he picked those victims. He just stalked the one girl. She just kind of ignored him and didn't engage in their communication. He was trying to communicate with her and she didn't respond, so he stalked her. That's what the videotapes are showing, and the pings on his cell phone. His social media, a lot of people on Reddit found disturbing posts from years back. This is all bullshit. Sorry, this is BS. Absolute BS. He hates women. Well, okay, well, why did he stabby a man then? Did he get confused? He was like, ooh, whoops. I didn't see that you had a penis. Oops. I thought you were a woman. Okay, so only 3 out of 4 were women. So he had a 75% success rate if it was about female hating. So, yeah. And he doesn't respect women at all, kind of obvious from the way he treated his professors and the people he works with, his fellow grad students. Does this person know him? So this is Latah County. He didn't even live in Latah County. He lived in Washington. So how do they know how he treated his professors and the people he works with, his fellow grad students? The other university he was working at, they had problems with him too. How do they know that? How do they know that? This is all conjecture. He just stalked the one girl. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. He didn't stalk her. She just kind of ignored him and didn't engage in their communication. He was trying to communicate with her and she didn't respond, so he stalked her. No, he didn't. This is all lies. That's what the videotapes are showing. What videotapes? And the pings on his cell phone. The pings on his cell phone show him just to be generally in the area. So it shows that he liked a couple of the restaurants in the area, perhaps. He drove all the way to that area to go to certain places like that. I think it's a kebab shop or a gyro shop. There's a coffee shop there he quite liked as well. His social media, a lot of people on Reddit found disturbing posts from years back. Oh, really? Disturbing. None of this makes him a quadruple murderer. The drive-by stalking, he had a temper and stopped them. He was studying criminal law. Okay, let's arrest everyone who studies criminal law, shall we? Somehow he was shunned by them. There are different things from his past. His behaviors before he came here. He attended school in criminal justice. That's what he was studying at Washington State University. He lives back in Pennsylvania. Girls that grew up with him, stalked. Don't know if that's the right word. He didn't have healthy relationships with women. How do these people know this stuff? I tell you how. Has anyone watched Nancy Grace talk about this guy? She calls him a creep. She says that he was problematic, that he would go up to women in bars and try to get their addresses. Now, I don't know where she gets that information from, but I tell you something, that's the kind of information that would absolutely not be admissible in court. Absolutely. Like it's hearsay. It's not criminal behavior at all. It would be considered character evidence, like prejudicial character evidence, prior bad acts, just completely irrelevant. Completely irrelevant. Especially if he was just like flirting with somebody and he was like, oh, so where do you live? You know, like that's kind of the sort of thing that a guy might say to you to try and sort of work out if he can split an Uber with you home and, you know, yeah, try and score for the night. That happens, right? That doesn't add up to stalking. It can seem a bit creepy, but it doesn't make you a quadruple murderer. It's kind of what guys do when they're trying to score, right? It happens. Of course, Nancy Grace keeps talking about this stuff because she thinks it makes him look guilty. Doesn't make him look great, but it doesn't make him the guilty man. Is he a lumberjack too? Nancy Grace is one of the worst. She's not... she's almost the worst. Probably Jennifer Coffindaffer would be the worst. But she doesn't have as much reach as Nancy Grace. Nancy Grace has more reach. Ethan was in the way, duh. Yeah. Are there results from this survey? Yeah, there are. So basically, what we're looking at right now, BL Blazy, hi, how are we going? What we're looking at right now is the qualitative data. So we're looking at qualitative results. So we're looking at what people are actually saying in their verbal responses. And in a moment, we're going to go and have a look at the quantitative data. So there are some graphs that have been transposed from the statistics. And they're not fantastic graphs. I'm a bit disappointed with the prettiness of the graphs, to be honest with you. But yeah, so at the moment, these are results, and they're true like statements from respondents in the Latah County area. But this is the qualitative stuff. So I'll just continue for now. That's all right, thanks. Yeah, you're behind on this case. No problems. JC has you blocked. See, I've been trying not to get blocked by Jennifer Coffindaffer because I use her quotes and stuff for my Sunday show, Hearsay for Days. And so I just don't comment on her stuff so that I can easily still access it. But I wouldn't care if she did. It just would be annoying. I read and seen a ridiculous amount of false information on TV and online. Well, I'm glad you noticed that. I'm a student, I've heard a lot, and don't know what to believe. There's a lot of discussion about his psychological makeup. A master's and working on a PH.D. in criminology. That's a fact. The rumor is he's going to write a book about it, and the reason is to write a book. He gets love letters from women in prison. That's a rumor. What the defense attorney wants is to make sure he doesn't get executed. That's a rumor. There's a ton of rumors in this town, knee-deep in rumors. The worst rumor was that the murders were engineered by a woman. A psychic in Texas accused her of murder. The woman's being sued, and there's court facts about it. The rumor is the history professor did this at the University of Idaho. Okay, this person just needs to stop with the rumors. Because actually, like, some of the rumors are true. The defense attorney wants to make sure he doesn't get executed. That's not a rumor. That's true. That's 100% true. Defense attorney, that's her job, not to get him executed. The one about the history professor did this at the University of Idaho, yeah, that's a rumor. I heard rumors that the roommates might be or could be involved, and about Kohberger's past and history. Yeah, okay. I've heard that the girl that he really liked, that he had stabbed her the most and the worst. That's the biggest thing I heard. There are so many little things. Heard rumors about drug deals or that he stalked the victims. Heard that it was possibly a drug case. There was a drug deal gone wrong. I heard all kinds of things, from drug deals gone wrong, or he's being so smart that he thought he could get away with the murder. Everyone in the whole country heard it. Or did they? Really? How do you know that? Did you talk to everyone in the whole country? I feel like I remember It was a home that had a lot of weekend and night parties, and that he had potentially been there once or twice at their home. Nope. No evidence of that. I guess I didn't pay much attention to that. One that really bothered me was that the roommates that were not killed, Dylan and Bethany, survived, that they were talking during the murder, and that they, the two surviving roommates, were involved somehow. There were drugs. It was disturbing. There's nothing in the information released that alludes to them having any involvement in the crimes, that the police department was corrupt, and the prosecutor's office some conspiracy about cover-up. It's silly and stupid. I don't believe it. Well, they didn't call 911 for 9 hours, and then it took 3 hours for the lead detective to get there. So, and then they locked down the crime scene. We have no idea what happened at all to this day. So, yeah. Everything. There's never been any body cams or anything. So, maybe it's not as silly as it sounds. Okay. Anyway, let's move on to impact on the community. I think tremendously. This is all about how it's people feel since it's happened. I was trying to hire people. Some of the candidates wouldn't consider the job because of the murders. Blah 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 blah. Okay, so we could pretty much skip this, but what I want to go to now is community pressure to convict Bryan Kohberger. Now, this is important. This is important because this goes straight to how people feel about him actually being found guilty. Not so much whether or not they hate him or they think he's guilty, how people are going to feel if he's not found guilty. Right? So they want him found guilty, and they want him found guilty now. It's a really big deal in Latah County. So these comments reinforce the quantitative data, which shows a strong presumption of guilt in Latah County. Examples of the types of reactions to a hypothetical acquittal include, right, and I did a little bit of this in my preview that I put online a few hours ago. So they'd burn the courthouse down. Outrage would be a mild description. They would be very upset. They would think the jury failed. I think we would all be heartbroken all over again, and fear would probably rise in us again. I don't think we would be okay with a not guilty verdict at all. It would be very hard for our community to accept, and it would be difficult for us to move forward and feel safe in our own community like we once did before this horrible tragedy. Now, here's the problem. If this guy's not guilty, then they haven't been safe all this time, have they? Whoever did this has been out free all this time. So it wouldn't be like it's like, I mean, they might be shocked, but that's not his fault. It's not his fault. In fact, the fault lies with the prosecution. The fault lies with the local law enforcement, because they've let someone free all this time. There's no point being angry at him. Oh my gosh, I would be so afraid. Possible riots. We will be disgusted unless some major evidence proves different. The entire county mostly believes he's guilty. They better have substantial evidence to not convict, and people would be fine if that was the case. Okay? If he's not guilty, prove it. All right, so what really bothers me here is this huge burden shift that's going on. So people believe he is guilty already, and I don't see how Judge can refuse, or how he can overrule this motion for change of venue now looking at this. I just don't see. I mean, he's faced with this information that shows that the local community believes he's already guilty. And I know that it's only a sample. However, this goes directly to an appeal, doesn't it? I mean, if he can show that his Sixth Amendment right to a fair trial was compromised right from the beginning, then any guilty verdict would absolutely be appealable, because there's no way that they can say that the jury selection process was fair in Latah County. I can't imagine that happening because they have so much against him. He would be dumbfounded. They'll have to prove with real evidence that he's not involved in the murder. They prove that he's not guilty. They'd have to find someone else because someone killed those kids. I think there's a lot of people that have already made up their minds and would be upset. They would lose faith in the justice system. A lot of hotheads here in Idaho. I think it would be scary. A lot of people think he's guilty. I think they would be rather shocked because of the evidence gathered. The DNA and stalking are hard to get around. Well, we talked about the stalking a lot today, haven't we, guys? The stalking didn't happen. And yet, people are basing a lot of their thought process on this stalking thing. So you take the stalking away. Say you take the cell tower data away. Say you take the Elantra away. What have you got left? You got this piece of touch DNA on something that is not actually a murder weapon. It's just a piece of leather. That's it. Well, it's actually the button on a piece of leather. And the touch DNA, that's what it is. It's touch or transfer DNA. It's something that I could have shaken someone's hand and then they touch that object. Right? So it's not even that reliable. It's definitely his DNA, no question. Right, it's his DNA, but how did it get there? We're not 100% sure. Right? And then this whole lack of evidence. People miss the lack of evidence. There's so little evidence of him in that house. There's no evidence of those people on him. There's no evidence of him cleaning. I think they would be angry and shocked. I think they should try him right here. I think the reaction will be horrible. Most people are convinced he's guilty. I think it would be very hard. People would be very upset. I think everyone pretty much decided it was him. I think there would be another media storm on how the system failed because most everyone I know believes he's guilty and have been tried in the media. Well, that's true. There's going to have to be a lot of compelling evidence to find him not guilty. Well, that's not how it works, is it? That's not how it works. You're supposed to find people guilty, not guilty. Oh, hello, Bobby. How are you? If he's not the one guilty, I'm going to laugh and cry at the same time. Well, I got news for you, Bobby. I'm pretty sure they got the wrong guy. The reason I'm pretty sure they got the wrong guy is, hang on, and I'm happy to be wrong about this, but the reason I'm pretty sure they've got the wrong guy is because they have an expert on their side who pretty much wrote the software on geodata for cell phones. And he, Mr. Cyray, he was a law enforcement officer for a long time, and then he got very much involved in tracking cell phones and software development. And then what he did, he created this software called Trax, T-R-A-X, and he built it up to a point where he then needed some software developers to make it scale out. He was involved in hundreds, if not thousands, of police investigations tracking cell phones around the country. He did work for the Defense Force as well. And then he went out on his own and became a private contractor working on these cases. And he's been an expert witness for many, many trials, but only ever for the prosecution. And he trains law enforcement as well to use this software. He is defending, well, he is an expert witness for the defense for the very first time for Bryan Kohberger, and he is going to testify that that phone of his was actually 40 miles to the west during the time that the state alleges that Bryan Kohberger was committing the crimes. The time that apparently the phone was off the grid or switched off or just not responding to the network. And around the time that Mr. Syray was brought on as an expert witness, that was about the time that the defense or the public defenders who are representing Mr. Kohberger started saying very firmly and loudly that they believe 100% in the innocence of their client. And that was a big statement to make because they are public defenders. Death penalty qualified public defenders. And especially Ms. Ann Taylor, who's just received a promotion, by the way. For her to go out on a limb and say that she believes her client is innocent, not guilty, innocent, that was a big statement to make. And I think it's because she knows that, having seen the data, that phone was elsewhere at the time of the crime. And she's also written into the alibi statement that he will be exonerated. She's used that wording as well. So time will tell. However, I think that once the discovery deadline has passed, either the state and the FBI, who did their initial cast report, come forth with information that shows that he was, well, that the data shows that he was to the west, or they come forth with nothing and Syray does testify and show what he has, show his cards, there will be a motion to dismiss. And his alibi will show exactly why he can't be tried for this crime. It doesn't matter whether it was stargazing or anything else. If he and his car and him were 40 miles to the west during that period of time, the state's got no case. It's very simple. Very simple. So anyway, well, I mean, that's the thing. His phone's alibi is important because it's tied to the car. And the state have, their whole map is based on not just the phone, but the car. And the CCTV that relates to where the car was and also where the phone pings were. So the phone pings are very inaccurate, but the way that they track it to being near the house is that CCTV of this elusive white Elantra that doesn't have any tags, right? So if they don't have cell tower data to match up to this elusive white Elantra, then they've got nothing, because they can't bring that information in to trial unless they bring all of it in. So they're withholding stuff at the moment. There's information that's been in a motion to compel for a long time. I'm talking a year and a bit. So I think it was the 4th motion to compel back in May 2023 when the defense actually said you need to hand over all this cell tower info, cast info, actually, drive data, etc. And when we're still waiting, it's been a long time since then. And if they don't come up with all of that information, they can't use any of the information. So if they can't use their cell tower data or their cast data, then they can't use any of it. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't bring just some of it in. You have to bring all of it in. If the defense wants some of it and they know it's there, you can't have just some. They can't use his phone as a shield and a sword. Yes, absolutely. It's a really good way of putting it, Melissa Simok. Really good way of putting it. It's going to be so interesting. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Society's wife Carrie are really interesting, aren't they? Their streams are really interesting. He's so intelligent, a little bit arrogant. He's so intelligent, though. He's so intelligent. Thank goodness your car is all and simple. Yeah, I do wonder about that too. I do wonder about that when you're driving around, that you can be tracked. But the truth about the matter is, if you have a smartphone, you are being tracked. Even if you've got your location data on, if you're connected to things like Facebook and like Discord or Spotify or any of those apps, they're constantly looking to connect. Like they're just boom, boom, boom. They're looking for any opportunity to connect. They're just searching and searching and searching. And just looking for any kind of opportunity to find a network. And yeah, it's possible. And all of those companies can be subpoenaed as well. Pornhub tracks you. Yeah, I'm sure that's happened to you, Dahlia, and your OnlyFans as well. OnlyFeet. Okay, let's get through this. A lot of negativity on our local government. Feel like he's already been condemned. Residents and community would be very negative with that. I think he probably would be killed. Riots. Parents will take care of him. Yeah, good. I wish that wasn't true, but if you've seen the way the Goncalves family talk, I believe it. I actually believe it. Like, remember when they turned up to the courthouse with like shoot him or something t-shirts? It was gross. They would probably find him and kill him. Several would be out on the hunt for him to make sure he gets what's coming to him. There would likely be a riot and he wouldn't last long outside because someone would do the good old boy justice. They would give him street justice. Oh my goodness, I think it would be terrible with all the evidence that they say they have. There would have to be some sort of punishment, pretty much getting out alive. I think they'd be really upset. Probably somebody would find him and take him out in the woods and hang him. That would be ugly, and I'm sure street justice would happen. One of the family members or friends would take care of him. He would have a hard time finding a place for peace. He better go pack for Pennsylvania real quick. Okay. Why Pennsylvania? Why would he be safe in Pennsylvania? I don't think it would be good at all. Kohberger would have to leave the state for good. But he's already in Washington. So would he be safe in Washington, do you think? That would be a horrible thing, devastating to the community. Pretty sure the community would be in uproar. I think they would ask for the prosecutor's job. You think? I think that's fair enough, actually, because they put this man through this. I think they would react negatively. There wouldn't be riots or anything, but people would be vocally upset, maybe have an impact on who the city prosecutor is, some political impacts. It would be seen as a pretty big error, would reflect negatively on the city prosecutor if he couldn't get a conviction. Fair enough. People would be scared again and very mad at the police, enraged, strong opinions, firing of officers. I feel that there is something wrong and there was corruption. Ooh. This person's smart. They would lose their minds and be very upset with law enforcement. It would be really hard on people here. We want closure. Let's move on. It would freak a lot of people out. It would make people really uneasy. Did someone actually say 85% would be upset? Or is that a mistake? Residents would have an uprising. An uprising. I can't even imagine what pain and anger and hurt and disappointment would come about if that happened. The newspapers have been very open about all of it and the whole time, and I appreciate them reporting to the community, but it does inform what? The community of all the evidence. Oh, you think? Wow. Okay, let's move on. I want to show you what have you read, seen, or heard about these events? Nothing I can think of at the moment. Number of media recognized. Okay, that's boring. All right, so if we go down to, there's this other guy who is one of the experts. Oops. Here we go. Screen out, Latah County. Hello, my name is so-and-so. That's just how the survey questions worked. We have, okay. We have some pie graphs. They're not very pretty. I was a bit disappointed. Volume of media coverage. Latah County coverage versus rest of Idaho. So Latah County, 36.13%, rest of Idaho, 63.87%. Media exposure in Latah County, population 40,924. There's your answer to your question, half Irish. Makes up a total of 36.13% of the total media coverage in Idaho. So it's actually, hey, that's a fair bit. Population of Latah County versus rest of Idaho. So, okay, so Latah County is only 2.75% of Idaho, so it's pretty small, but the volume of media coverage to do with this case is that much compared to the rest of Idaho. So, heaps of coverage of the Kohberger case in Latah County compared to the rest of Idaho. So it's quite saturated in that area, which makes sense. Now, media coverage, Latah County. So we're looking at Latah County compared to the rest of Idaho. 34.2%, Latah County, rest of Idaho, and the population of Latah County compared to the rest of Idaho. So what they're trying to show here is that in Latah County, the amount of media coverage compared to the actual population is pretty similar. So it's not like they have a lot of saturation of media coverage in Latah County about Kohberger case as in comparison to the amount of population. It's not like heavy saturation as it is in Latah County. So you can see that the population of Latah County is very small, but the saturation of media to do with the case is huge, whereas down here, the population of Latah County is fairly large, but the media coverage is enough to just cover it. Does that make sense? Volume of media coverage, Ada, Bannock, Canyon, and Latah County versus rest of Idaho. Okay, so from January 1, 2023 to July 15, 2024, Latah County had 36.13 of media coverage. So that's a lot. 36.13. Ada County had 27.72 of media coverage. Canyon County had 3.77. That's not much. And Bannock County had 1.92. The rest of Idaho had 31.53 of the coverage. So you can see that Latah County, considering it's only 2% of the population, it had 30-something% of the media coverage. So that's like huge, like Donald Trump huge when it comes to like media coverage compared to the size of Idaho. Ada County sounds to me like it's gotten like a comparatively even spread of media coverage. Same with Bannock, same with Canyon. So it seems to me that pretty much the other areas in Idaho are like maybe the rest of the country, right? I don't know. We haven't seen the rest of the country, but at least it's not concentrated there. This is the kind of stuff I'm used to seeing, like back from my advertising agency days. Like your media company would come to you with this kind of stuff, and I'd be like, "Yeah, it's very interesting. It could look prettier." Should I just take that graph and make it look a bit prettier though? Opportunities to be seen person, Ada, Bannock, Canyon, and Latah County and rest of Idaho. So stories in Latah County made up 63.59 of opportunities to be seen, while Ada County made up 34.78 of opportunities to be seen. Right, so again, Latah County made up 63.59% of opportunities to be seen. So opportunities to be seen means that it's like an impression. So if I wanted to be on a interview or something like that, if I wanted to make sure that, like I say, opportunities to be seen is just a term, but it's basically an impression on someone's screen. So an opportunity to be seen. So the news presses, for example, if I were Chief Fry, my opportunity to be seen would be 63.59 of my percentage chance of being seen would be in Latah County, as opposed to Ada County. That would be 34.78% of my opportunity would be to be seen in Ada County, because that's how many stories are being run in those different counties. Does that make sense? I think so. Media coverage in Latah County offered twice as many opportunities to be seen, twice as many per person than in Ada County. The higher volume of coverage in Latah County, coupled with a smaller pool of eligible jurors, means people in Latah County had twice as many chances to be exposed to this case versus those residing in Ada County. This doesn't mean every person was exposed to the story, but rather represents the number of times they had the chance to read, see, or hear something about the case. Oh, look at this. Okay, again, I could have made this prettier, but I'll show it to you the way it was given. And this is by TrueScope. And TrueScope, the guy who runs TrueScope, he's going to be testifying as well. So I think at the next hearing, and by the way, the next hearing is 30th of August. So we're not getting one at the end of this month, which is a shame. I thought we'd get one on Monday, but nope. The state is going to be formulating their response to this. It's a pretty big motion that's been put forward. And I reckon they're going to be fighting for their lives to get this trial to be held in Latah County. You could see why. They're going to get a conviction if it's in Latah County. That's why. But good luck refuting all this stuff. Latah is the blue line. And can you see the blue line? It's the one that my mouse is on right now. So the blue line. And Ada County is the red line. Okay, so time is on the bottom. Moving the trial saved Casey Anthony. Did it? Did it? Well, I mean, I think Jose Baez saved Casey Anthony, but that's actually a really interesting point. Did they do a survey like this to move the trial? I'm interested to hear about that, Dali. Side note, are you going to do more Photoshop tutorial videos? Absolutely. Absolutely. I sure will. I'm going to do some Canva ones as well, Melissa. Okay, so from February 2023, let's just see what the scale is here Volume of media coverage over time. Okay, so let's assume that the volume of media coverage over time, 136. They're not actually telling us what this means, which is annoying. But oh, Latah is the blue one. But this looks like, oh, okay, hang on. So February 2023, it starts off with ADA being higher. 51.29, 198. So in May 2023, it's higher. So it's 198 in May 2023. Then it goes down, and then it goes down. In July 2023, it's dipped all the way down. And then Latah's taken over. And it stays higher all the way after. And then what happens in December 2023? Oh, December 2023, that was when the house got knocked down. That's interesting. So December 2023, the house gets knocked down, and the coverage in Latah gets really strong, and then it drops, and then in April 2024, that was when the alibi motion came out. And then it went really high. It went high in Ada as well, but it went much higher in Latah County. And then it's dropped, but it's always stayed just slightly higher. Well, when I say slightly higher, yeah, higher. But considering the different populations in those areas, it shouldn't be higher. It shouldn't be higher at all, you wouldn't think. I'm already considering a second channel for them. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so what they're trying to show here is that Ada is a better county for this, because Latah has a disproportionate amount of media coverage for the Kohberger case. And it's true, like you can see it based on these graphs here, that it is disproportionate. This graph here shows it's absolutely disproportionate. It just interests me that back here in February 2023 through till June 2023, Ada's was much higher, which I would have thought Latah's would have been higher, considering that that's closer to the incident. But anyway. Okay, so what's this one about? Volume of media coverage over time, Latah County, Ada County, rest of Idaho, and US coverage. Okay, so US, and it went down, and you can see those peaks. So we had a peak in December 2023, and that was when the house was demolished, and again when the alibi came out in April of this year. And where's the rest? Oh, okay, sorry. So they've gone and shown us those two, and then they've shown the US separately. It would have been good if they'd just shown it all on the one, but anyway. I suppose you can't really compare 4,986 to 36 and 1. Okay. This is TrueScope Media Intelligence. Okay. Anyway, we're nearly done with this. Ew. So we have a situation now where we have a fairly decent option, it seems, in Ada County to, hang on, let's go through all these footnotes, just make sure there's nothing else here important. References, blah, 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 blah. White page. Okay, whilst I'm just going through that, I want to show you You'll consider subscribing. Shut up. December was when he was arrested. Yeah, but that was, I'm talking about December 2023, though. December 2022 was when he was arrested. But December 2023 was when the house was demolished, Moonvale. So that was what that other spike was. Yeah. So it was just after the anniversary. So there was a spike around the anniversary, and then for the demolishing, that was a big story at the time. Okay, so I'm going to show you how Nancy Grace has just responded to this motion for change of venue. Guess what she took out of it? Da ba da ba da 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 do do do.
Breaking news tonight, Bryan Kohberger's death penalty showdown, demanding in court his trial be moved to liberal Boise. Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. Thank you for being with us.
Okay. Firstly, is Latah County Boise? I think it is. Can someone tell me? From the Lori Vallow case, it rings a bell that Latah County is in Boise. Yeah, my blood just boiled too, Moonvale. But get this right. The title of the video, like in the subject line, it said, and in her tweets and that, it says, he wants it moved to liberal Boise, and you just heard her intro. Just wait. Just wait.
Bryan Kohberger's defense files for a trial venue change, citing extensive ongoing and inflammatory publicity. Will the motion be successful?
Okay, he wants to move to liberal Boise. Well, it's my understanding that Boise repeatedly votes in a conservative manner. So what's liberal about Boise? Well, first of all, listen to this.
Okay. So she just contradicted herself. And I don't see anything anywhere. I've searched the document. I can't see anywhere where it says that they think it's a liberal area. So it's not. So where did she get that from? Where did she get that from? It's just clickbait. That's it. She's turned it political for clickbait. Yeah, boys. Okay, thank you, BL Blazy. Right, so that's in Latah County. Right. Okay, I'm only going to inflict about 2-3 minutes of her on you because I want to show you how else she is tainting this.
Our defense team firmly, and I mean firmly, believes in Mr. Kohberger's innocence. And right now he's being held to have a trial in a county that believes that he is guilty. If you deny a change of venue, Mr. Kohberger's constitutional right to a fair trial is denied.
Demanding a change of venue. Hold on just a moment. Before we get into the legalities of Bryan Kohberger demanding a change of venue in a death penalty showdown, straight out to Joe Scott Morgan, professor of forensics, Jacksonville State University, author of Blood Beneath My Feet on Amazon, host of a hit series, Body Bags with Joe Scott Morgan. I could go on. But Joe Scott Morgan, you had a really interesting insight about moving the trial to Boise. Everybody may wonder, why am I asking a forensics expert a legal question?
Why am I asking you?
Hold your horses. Joe Scott, jump in.
Yeah, all the forensic pathologist has to do is grab their car keys and drive right down the street, or maybe even walk across the street, because that's where the autopsies were actually done on the 4 victims. And so it's not going to be a real heavy lift for them, and have them there. And just imagine that just for a second, Nancy. This idea that they're going to move this venue there where these 4 beautiful children were actually examined after the brutality that they sustained allegedly at Kohberger's hands.
Howard Bloom joining us. You probably know him very well by now, all of you legal eagles, because I sure do.
Okay. I'm really sorry. I haven't warned you about this man that she's about to bring in. He doesn't deserve to even have his name spoken. He is an author, and he's written a book about a month ago. It got released. It's disgusting that she's giving him a platform, but hey, it's Nancy Grace. He's written a book that is damning of this man. It's full of absolute tripe about him being some sort of psychopath, about his family believing that he did it, all sorts of absolute garbage. And he's been promoting it on her show. He's been promoting it on podcasts and basically YouTube channels who thrive off the whole guilty thing. And really, I can't wait for this guy to get acquitted so he can sue his pants off. So
I felt like I knew him before I ever actually met him on air, because he's the author of When the Night Comes Falling, a requiem for the Idaho student murders.
I can't wait till his lawsuit starts to fall on him.
You can find him at howardbloom.com. That's spelled BLUM. Howard, what do you make of the change of venue motion?
I think it's a very cynical move by the defense. What they're trying to do ultimately is buy time, whether the trial takes place in Moscow, where it should take place, where the community needs to have its literally wounds healed, or it takes place in Boise, is not going to make a difference to the verdict. Whether the forensic examiners can get there quicker, or they have to drive several hours to get there, that doesn't make a difference. It's all going to come down to the evidence.
Well, one thing about when you have the medical examiner sitting right across the street, there may be a certain familiarity amongst the population with that medical examiner. I know who our medical examiner is, but I want you to listen very carefully to what Kohberger's defense attorney, Ann Taylor, says one more time.
Our defense team firmly, and I mean firmly, believes in Mr. Kohberger's.
Says one more with that medical examiner. I know who our medical examiner is, but I want you to listen very carefully to what Kohberger's defense attorney, Ann Taylor, says one more time.
Hang on a minute. Anyone spot the flaw there? That's not Ann Taylor. Remember? That's not Ann Taylor.
Defense team firmly.
See? That is not Ann Taylor. It is not. She's sitting down there. Yep. No, so that's Elizabeth, right? So that's Ann down there. So yeah, you could get it right. And Taylor said the same thing, by the way. But you could get it right, Nancy. You could get it right. So anyway, I'm not going to inflict Nancy on you any longer, but it's just really interesting that she can't get any of her facts straight. Her very first point that she made was incorrect. The whole point of her video was incorrect. She started with a point about them wanting to move it to liberal Boise, which no one ever said that was the point of it at all. Boise is not even liberal. It's quite conservative. And then she goes and interviews this author who wrote this absolute piece of fiction about this crime. And really, he's opening himself up to litigation in a huge way, because if and when this man is found not guilty and exonerated, he could absolutely sue Howard Bloom. And I really hope he does, because it sets a terrible precedent. If people think that they can just go and write novels and things about defendants before they are found guilty, then that's just opening a huge can of worms, isn't it? Like, why is it all right for people to make money out of these things, and just assume that it's fine to cast aspersions about someone, assuming that they're guilty, make up facts, especially when we have all of these things getting around about jurors being influenced, potential juror taint getting about. No. So Nancy Grace, Howard Bloom, Joe Scott Morgan, you all have a lot to answer for, in my opinion. All right, so we're gonna finish on that one. I want to thank everybody for your time today. I know that it's been a long stream. I will be keeping you guys up to date with this, and I have probably another stream in me on this one. There's more in that document. I know I've covered over it pretty quickly, but I wanted to give you the basic gist of what the survey results were. Man, it's crazy. It's a huge document. It's 319 pages. So I hope that you've gotten a bit of an idea of why I believe that the state's going to have a really hard time fighting back on this one. And yeah, Dali, I'm really interested in knowing a little bit more about how the case against Casey Anthony changed when they changed to a different location. I've only really heard of cases where they've changed location, but it hasn't really made any difference. But yeah, I'm interested in hearing about when changes made a big difference. We're going to go over to Sean now and watch a little bit of the ballerina case. I think I'm going to actually not do hearsay for days tomorrow because I'm super nasal, as you can hear, and I'm still trying to get better. So I'm going to call it for hearsay for days tomorrow, and I'm going to get myself back feeling better and do some more streams during the week. We'll do a Sarah Boone probably on Monday, and get right back into it. So yeah, I am nosal. Yeah. Is that a hella light behind you? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. My hella light. Isn't that cool? I got it from Temu. $25. How good is that? Yeah, I need to take a day or two, I think. So I'm also teaching a lot lately as well. Thank you for the gifted memberships, guys. Appreciate it. And you members, make sure that you go to the membership tab and click on the link to our Discord, because you know what? We've got hundreds of members and only about 50 something plus that are actually on the Discord enjoying the fun in there. So make sure you enjoy your membership perks, guys, especially if you're a gifted member. Make sure you enjoy it, and yeah, get in there and join in the fun. Join in the fun. And Lego Law today, I will definitely be going over to watch Lego Law and go, hey, Andrea, be my friend. I don't usually fangirl anybody, but Andrea's different. Andrea's really cool. All right, see you over at Sean's. Make sure you say hello, Raid. I love you all. BK's innocent till proven guilty. Bye.